Imagine a system designed to protect our most vulnerable, our children, being weaponized to steal millions. An unthinkable betrayal, right? Well, it happened. And the fallout from the Nick Shirley Daycare fraud could change the entire childcare landscape forever. What if I told you that this one massive scandal unfolding in Minnesota is not just about a few bad actors, but a ticking time bomb for every single daycare in America? Yes, it's that big. Today, we're diving deep into the Nick Shirley case, understanding how a scheme to defraud the state of millions through illicit childcare subsidies didn't just hurt taxpayers, but opened a Pandora's box the childcare industry might never recover from. And here's the kicker. The reverberations of this scandal are about to get a whole lot louder, especially if a certain former president makes a return to the White House. This isn't just news, it's a warning. For years, I've been tracking systemic vulnerabilities in government programs, exposing how loopholes designed to help can be exploited by those looking to profit. The scale of the Nick Shirley operation, however, redefined audacity. It started like many cases: whispers, community concerns, then a trickle of information becoming a flood. But it wasn't just about a few bad actors. It was a complex web, targeting the very subsidies meant to lift families out of poverty. I remember thinking, how could this have gone unnoticed for so long? The answer, as it often is, lay in the sheer volume of transactions and the trust placed in a system struggling to keep up with demand. This saga isn't just a grim tale of theft, it's a case study in how fraud evolves, and more importantly, how deeply it can impact policy and public perception for years to come. What happened in Minnesota is a blueprint for future crackdowns. Here's the twist. While news outlets focused on the millions stolen and the individuals charged, the silent, terrifying implication for every single child care provider in the nation went largely unmentioned. Because this wasn't just another fraud case. This was a direct attack on the integrity of a program that millions of working families rely on. A program that Republicans, and especially Donald Trump, have often viewed with skepticism. The how of the Nick Shirley fraud is critical, not just for understanding the crime, but for predicting the government's response. It revealed gaping holes that can't simply be patched. They need an overhaul, a painful overhaul. And that overhaul, my friends, is going to be driven by a narrative of tightening the screws, restoring order, and punishing those perceived to be abusing the system. Get ready for a chokehold, because this scandal just handed them the playbook. Let's break down the Nick Shirley fraud. At its core, it exploited Minnesota's Child Care Assistance Program, or CCAP, designed to help low-income families afford daycare. Shirley and his associates allegedly created a vast network of shell companies and fake daycares, seemingly legitimate on paper, but in reality serving as fronts for siphoning off funds. They fabricated attendance records, enrolled children who didn't exist or weren't actually attending, and inflated the hours of care provided, all to maximize their payouts from the state. The genius, or rather the depravity, was in the volume. They didn't just steal a little, they systematized the theft, turning a social welfare program into a personal ATM. The core problem? A combination of high trust placed in providers, limited oversight given the caseload, and a system not built to detect such sophisticated, large-scale deception. It's easy to blame the fraudsters, but the system itself enabled them. It was ripe for exploitation, and they simply walked through the open door, then kicked it off its hinges. The solution from a government perspective isn't just prosecuting Shirley. It's about ensuring this can never happen again. And that means a complete reevaluation of how child care subsidies are administered. Think tighter controls, more frequent audits, stricter eligibility for providers and recipients. The era of trust but verify is over. It's now verify, then scrutinize. Now, let's connect this to the political landscape, specifically a potential Trump presidency. This isn't speculation, it's understanding historical patterns and stated intentions. Trump's platform has consistently emphasized fiscal conservatism, reducing government waste, and cracking down on what he perceives as welfare fraud. The Shirley case is, for him, Exhibit A. Consider his past rhetoric and actions regarding programs like SNAP or Medicaid. The modus operandi is clear. If abuse is found, the response is swift, severe, and often wholesale. He's not interested in subtle adjustments. He's interested in making examples and rebuilding trust through aggressive enforcement. The daycare industry is about to feel that full force. The fraud in Minnesota provides the perfect justification for a federal overhaul. It allows him to say, "Look, liberals created a system so loose it was stolen from. I will fix it." This isn't about whether you agree with his politics. It's about an undeniable consequence. The window for lenient oversight is closing rapidly. Whether it's centralized federal databases, biometric attendance tracking, or dramatically increased inspections, the measures will be sweeping, and they will not be optional. This shift will fundamentally alter the cost and operational models for every single childcare provider, from the largest chains to the smallest in-home daycares. Prepare for unprecedented scrutiny. So, what exactly could a chokehold look like for daycare owners? First, expect draconian reporting requirements. Every single minute of a child's attendance might need to be digitally timestamped and verified, not just for subsidized kids, but across the board to ensure no cross-contamination of records. Secondly, a massive increase in unannounced inspections and audits. No longer will they trust self-reporting, they'll be showing up to verify head counts in real time. Third, the integration of federal and state databases. Currently, systems can be fragmented. A Trump administration would likely push for a unified national database for all child care assistance programs. This means any discrepancies or red flags would be instantly visible across state lines, making it almost impossible to hop locales and restart fraudulent operations. Fourth, much tougher penalties, not just for perpetrators, but potentially for any daycare found to have negligence in their record-keeping, regardless of intent. A single misplaced form or misinterpreted guideline could lead to fines, suspension of subsidies, or even license revocation. The margin for error will shrink to almost nothing. This shift won't just deter fraudsters, it will undoubtedly create immense administrative burden for legitimate businesses, potentially driving many smaller, independent daycares out of business. The impact on families will be equally profound. While the goal is to protect taxpayer money, the collateral damage could be reduced access to affordable childcare. If daycares close due to increased regulation or inability to comply, the supply of available childcare slots will dwindle, especially in rural or underserved areas. And for those remaining, the administrative costs of compliance will inevitably be passed on to parents, making childcare even more expensive, negating the very purpose of some subsidies. Imagine longer wait lists, forcing parents to choose between working fewer hours or securing unofficial, potentially unregulated care. The safety net becomes a trip hazard. The argument will be that these are necessary trade-offs to prevent fraud. But for a single working mother struggling to find affordable, reliable care, it will feel like punishment. This dilemma highlights the delicate balance governments must strike, protecting public funds while ensuring vital social services remain accessible and effective. The Nick Shirley fraud has tipped that scale dramatically, creating an environment where overcorrection is almost inevitable, regardless of who is in power. But with Trump, the likelihood of an aggressive, sweeping, and potentially disruptive chokehold is not just a possibility, it's a near certainty, fueled by strong political motivations. What can daycare owners do to prepare now? The first step is to scrutinize your current record-keeping and billing practices. Are they ironclad? Are they ready for the harshest audit? Invest in digital solutions for attendance and billing. Manual paper trails are a liability. Software that timestamps and can be easily audited will be invaluable. Secondly, proactively educate your staff on the importance of meticulous documentation. Fraud and error often happen due to lack of training or understanding. Host regular refreshers, communicate policy changes immediately, and foster a culture where attention to detail regarding finances and attendance is paramount. Third, network with other daycare owners and industry associations. Share information about emerging regulations and best practices. Strength in numbers will be crucial. These associations can also lobby for reasonable regulations, advocating for frameworks that prevent fraud without crippling legitimate businesses. Fourth, consider investing in legal counsel specializing in government compliance. Prevention is always cheaper than remediation. They can help you navigate the inevitable tidal wave of new rules, ensuring your operations remain above board and beyond reproach. Fifth, understand your contracts with parents, particularly those involving subsidies. Ensure clarity on responsibilities, billing cycles, and any state-specific requirements. Having transparent and unambiguous agreements will protect both your business and the families you serve. The days of lax oversight are over. The Nick Shirley scandal ensured that. Now, it's about rigorous, transparent, and defensible operations. Failure to adapt will not just be difficult, it could be terminal for your business. The stakes have never been higher. Beyond daycare owners, what are the broader implications for states and the federal government? For states, it means a complete reevaluation of their social safety nets. They'll be incentivized, perhaps even forced, to adopt stricter federal guidelines if they want to continue receiving federal matching funds for childcare programs. This could effectively nationalize many aspects of childcare regulation, stripping states of their ability to tailor programs to local needs. For the federal government, especially under a Trump administration, this is an opportunity to assert stronger executive control over social programs. It also signals a potential shift towards block grants, giving states a lump sum with fewer strings, but also less federal oversight in some areas, shifting accountability. However, given the nature of the Shirley fraud, direct oversight and rigorous audits seem more likely than a hands-off approach for childcare specifically. The narrative will be about preventing taxpayer abuse, which resonates strongly with a conservative base, making any pushback from childcare advocates difficult to frame. The long-term consequence could be a redefinition of government's role in childcare, moving from a supportive facilitator to a strict regulator and enforcer. This is a pivotal moment, sparked by one man's greed, but magnified by political will and systemic vulnerabilities. The ripples will touch every child, parent, and provider. The Nick Shirley fraud isn't just a scandal from Minnesota. It's a blueprint for a nationwide crackdown that will redefine the future of childcare in America. Whether this is a necessary evil to ensure integrity or an overreach that harms essential services remains to be debated. But the wheels are already in motion. Prepare for a new era of vigilance for both providers and the families who rely on them. The sleepy days of childcare subsidies are officially over. We've journeyed through the shocking Nick Shirley Daycare fraud, a network of deceit that siphoned millions from Minnesota's Child Care Assistance Program. We saw how this one case isn't isolated, but a potent catalyst for monumental change, particularly under a potential Trump administration. The chokehold is coming: tighter regulations, increased audits, unified databases, and harsher penalties. This isn't just about catching fraudsters, it's about fundamentally reshaping the industry. For daycare owners, prepare for unprecedented scrutiny. For families, anticipate shifts in accessibility and affordability. This is a transformation none of us can afford to ignore. The era of soft oversight is dead, buried by millions in stolen funds. A new, far more vigilant reality is dawning for every corner of the childcare sector. Understanding this isn't about fear-mongering, it's about forewarning. It's about empowering you to adapt, survive, and perhaps even thrive in a vastly altered environment. The stakes are our economy, our children's future, and the integrity of essential social programs. Be informed, be prepared, because change is coming. The Nick Shirley fraud was the first domino to fall. More will follow, and the entire childcare industry will feel the shockwave. What are your thoughts on potential government crackdowns on childcare? Do you think it's a necessary evil or an overreach? Share your opinions in the comments below. If you found this analysis insightful, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into critical issues, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. And speaking of our next video, we'll be exploring another massive fraud case that could similarly reshape the healthcare industry. You won't want to miss it. Until then, stay informed, stay vigilant, and thank you for watching. Your engagement helps us bring these critical stories to light.